All right, guys, here we go. We are back. Week 2, Dr. Tim, Dr. Mike Pavlak from Physio, Ortho, Perform. We covered it last week. They train amazing athletes and normal people just like us. Today, we're going to cover low back pain. All right, so I'm going to let these guys take it away. First of all, everybody that jumped in, amazing. Good to see everyone. And this will be recorded, and so we can spread the love afterwards. All right, guys, let's roll.
Right, I just looked over on me.
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. So I am Dr. Mike. Behind the camera is my brother, Dr. Tim. Second time getting to hang out with you guys this week, so we won't go into as much of the intro stuff, but we are physical therapists. We work down in the valley at a clinic called Physio, Orthopedics, and Performance, where we see endurance athletes. So you can think runners, CrossFit athletes, overhead athletes, really weightlifters is kind of the crew where we seem to hang out with the most. Last time we were chatting with you, we were talking about neck tension, which is something that comes up with the new sitting postures that we probably all had to adopt being work from home. Today we work down a little bit more south, where we're actually working down into the low back. We find that's another problem that comes along with posture. A lot of times bracing in the core, maybe poor ergonomics of a chair. There's a lot of things that can cause low back pain, but more often than not, it is the posture at which we've absorbed it. The low back is meant to have a little bit of what's called a lordotic curve. So if I stand up here, the back is supposed to kind of sway in. Sometimes when we sit, we drop into this kyphotic curve and we start pulling the back into a position it doesn't want to be. So what we're going to talk about here today with you guys is that posture is usually a symptom of, it can be a couple of things. It can be a mobility problem, it can be a stability problem. We're going to look at it from a mobility where it's a lot of times it's us getting tight. So we're going to look at it in two ways. We're going to say, when is it appropriate to roll the muscles? And when is it appropriate to stretch the muscles? And those are the two mobility topics that we are going to take a look at. I think the easiest way to describe it is to explain it, and I think we had said this earlier, but talk about the idea of marbles and silly putty. So consider your muscles to kind of be that. Silly putty is muscle that is well vascularized. It has blood flow coming to it, it has blood flow leaving from it, it's healthy, it moves well, it's pliable. Unhealthy muscle is more like a marble, where it's dense and tight, holding on, and it doesn't move well. So if we're thinking rolling versus stretching, and we have marbles and silly putty, what makes the most sense is to always start with rolling. And the reason is rolling will affect those marbles. Its goal is to break down that tight spot, help bring blood flow to the area, to make it a transition from a tight, dense, avascular tissue to a more vascular, pliable, moving, easy tissue. So we roll first, and then we move into mobility stretching, so we stretch second. So if you're thinking about those two worlds, that's kind of how we're going to break down what we'll do your day. I will talk through the mobility stuff with the lacrosse ball and the foam roller. Actually, it'll just be lacrosse ball. And Tim is going to teach you through some of the stretching stuff. I will say there's a third world outside of rolling and stretching. The third world would be if it's a stability problem. So maybe it's not that the muscle is tight, it's that the muscle is weak. Not something we'll discuss today, but it's something that would be useful if you find that maybe you are rolling and you are stretching on a regular basis and it's not getting any better. Then it might be worthwhile to check us out. We are doing telehealth visits where you can, reach out to us from the comfort of your own home, and we'll go through an evaluation process, look at what we have going on, figure out what pain is, as well as provide our home exercise and therapeutic treatment as far as what we need you doing at home to start recovering if it is a stability problem. So this is a good first line. I'll say if you're going through and doing this stuff well and you're not seeing recovery in the low back, then it might be appropriate to reach out to us. Our website is physio.orthoperform.com, and we'll throw a card up at the end that has all that information. And we'll also throw out a discount for the telehealth just because you guys are hanging out with us. But as far as going into the soft tissue release techniques with the lacrosse ball, that'll be the only thing you need for this one. So all you're going to do is grab a lacrosse ball. You can also grab a tennis ball. We just like the lacrosse ball because it's a little bit more dense. We're going to talk through really 4 muscles that seem to affect the low back. You got to think the hip is kind of like a puppet, gets tugged on. It's going to be muscles in the back, the lumbar paraspinals. Muscles down low, which should be the glute med. Muscles on the side of the hip, which is going to be the TFL, and muscles in the front of the hip, which will be that rectus femoris. All of those guys will tug on the hip in some way, shape, or form. It can cause that lordotic or kyphotic curve in the low back to change. So the first thing we're gonna look at is tightness in the low back. So if you are someone who's got soreness in the low back, tightness in the low back, you're gonna lie on your back, knees bent because it puts the spine in a straight position. Take that lacrosse ball and you're gonna roll to your side. Find the bony prominence of the spine. You do not want to put the lacrosse ball there. Rather, you want to roll just to the side of it. And then you're going to put the lacrosse ball down and you're going to lie on top of it. And you're going to go through a breathing pattern. It's pretty simple. Deep breath in, out. And as you let air out, you want to contract the abs and push into that lacrosse ball. You should feel pressure from the lacrosse ball pushing up on you. And you're going to cycle through that about 5 breaths. And then once you're done on the one side, roll back over and just go to the opposite side and do the exact same thing. That way you're treating both sides of the low back equally. From there, when you cycle through that 5 breaths, you can continue to work down the spine. You can also work your way up the spine, basically avoiding bony prominences. So if you start rolling down low enough, Dave was talking about the SI, which is a bone right here, a joint where the bone is right here. You obviously don't want to put the lacrosse ball on the bone. That's going to be more painful than anything. So lacrosse balls to the low back is your first one. 5 deep breaths, inhale, exhale out. It's a great way to start releasing tension in the low back. From there, we'll actually go into the glute med, which means I will go back into the same position I just was. But this time, I'm taking the lacrosse ball, you're actually going to work it into that glute muscle. So roll to your side, down below the belt line now. You can be a little to the outside, a little bit more towards the inside. A lot of times people are like, where's the right spot? Honestly, the right spot is if you roll around and you find tenderness. So I found a spot right here. It's tender. It means I'm in the right area. All you're going to do is with the leg on the same side, you're just going to let it drop off and you're going to let it come back up. And you're going to cycle through that. You want to do anywhere between 8 to 10 of these. Just bringing the leg up and dropping it off. And what we're doing is we're pinning a muscle and we're forcing it through a stretched position. So it's going to kind of work out those tight spots. So that's for the glute med. We talked low back, glute med. Let's move into the front of the hip. First one we're going to look at is called the TFL, stands for tensor fasciae lata. I think recently I had someone tell me that's what they commonly order at Starbucks, so you can try ordering that there, see what happens. That's my one joke for the day. I promise I'm done. You want to find hip bone, so it's going to be a little below that belt line. When you find hip bone, you will drop down and then just out. So you want to drop down and over, so you're a little bit on the outside of the hip, and that's where the lacrosse ball is going to sit. Take your hand and you're just going to drive pressure into that area. Once you have pressure driven into that area, you're going to let your leg, knee drop in, knee push out, and you're going to cycle through. You should feel as you roll through that lacrosse ball tender spots. The nice thing about the TFL is it's a tiny muscle, in which case you probably don't have to scan a whole bunch of areas. You can pretty much pin all of it under the lacrosse ball in just one spot, as opposed to the low back and the glute med where you might be searching around a little bit more. Reps and sets of that, same thing, you're doing about 10. And then the last one's going to be for the rectus femoris, which is actually a long muscle. Starts at the it starts at the hip of that hip bone and goes all the way down to attach to the knee. So as you would imagine, you can run through the entirety of this. The way you're going to treat that, guys, you'll lie on your stomach. Maybe you were foam rolling beforehand and you found a tender spot, so you know exactly where you want to go. Maybe you have to search around a little bit to find it. That's okay too. But let's say I found a tender spot right here. I'm going to lie the lacrosse ball right there. Laying on my stomach, all I'm going to do is take my knee through active flexion where I bend it, an extension where I kick it out, and I'm going to cycle through that 10 times. That's going to be focusing on breaking down that tightness in the rectus femoris. So as far as the lacrosse ball goes, those are kind of the 4 techniques you want to look at for the low back, the glute, the TFL, and the rectus femoris. Are there any questions popping up, Tim? I just see you smirking.
Sorry. Let's see. If I go to chat. Nope, no questions.
Very good. That's how precise.
Wait, someone wants to know how you got such a wonderful hair. No, that's not even on there. Just kidding. That's not on there. Oh, it was. Here we go. Dave, what's a real question? I think this is Dave from Akron, I believe. Oh, darn it, disappeared. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Not an expert over here.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. Dave Regula from Akron said, can you do these against the wall?
For the low back and for the glute, I would typically think it'd be better than lying on the ground. And here's why. When you're in standing, you're actually turning those muscles on, in which case you're not getting a true relaxation of the low back, of the glute by leaning up against the wall. When you lay down, you're actually turning the muscle off and letting it relax and lets you dig up more to that, into the area to release it. It'd be like the same idea of if you flex the muscle really hard and try to massage it, you're probably not getting much because the muscle's fighting you. So lying on the lets you actually relax the area. a little bit easier from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I can say even like a lot of times if we're trying to do a muscle activation technique or make like a neuromuscular change, it could make sense to turn the muscle on that you're trying to support a structure with. But in a situation like this, we're trying to be more parasympathetic, relaxation, digestion. It makes sense to relax up the muscle to increase depth. Muscles are layers of fibers. A lot of times you get to a deeper layer with a lacrosse ball by having the muscle in a non-active position, like just lying on the table. So Dave, thanks for your call today. We appreciate you continuing to listen to us. Call back soon. Yeah. Cool.
Well, that's everything
Yeah.
from me from the soft tissue. If you do have questions, you can still post them in. We'll hit them at the end. I'll let Tim take over, start talking about tissue length, which will be the stretching.
Yep.
So as opposed to last week, we've been working on our transitions. And notice how much more fluid this one is. Yeah, those are Tim's shoes. We're almost there. Boom. So I don't know if you guys find it interesting, but like everyone has like their active listening face, and like Dave's is like head nodding, and some people are on their chin, and then Shawn Michael like just is smirking the entire time. I have no idea why. He's kind of borderline happy and kind of like, I don't know, at the same time. But that's his like active listening face. It's just like a smirk. Is he giving you right now?
Yes, and the thumbs up.
And the thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but so like I said, or like Mike said, the soft tissue should always be first to go through and relax out tissue and to increase excursion of the tissue, because you're eliminating some of those spots where muscles contract down and causing irritation. We call them trigger points, an active trigger point. It's a tender spot. When you're doing a soft tissue, you should make you hold your breath or wince. It should feel good, and you should feel better after you're getting up from doing a soft tissue. The second phase of mobility, not the stability portion, would be tissue length. So once you've eliminated all those knots and marbles inside the tissue, now once you lengthen it to a position where it's your hips not pulling on your low back, or it's your low back, you're trying to put yourself in a posture that is the opposite of your sitting posture. So there's a school of thought inside of physical therapy that's really old called MDT, mechanical diagnosis and therapy or treatment, that says all low back pain has a predetermined position that you want to be in to decrease pain. And a lot of times it's opposite what you normally in. So here in COVID-19 era, we are all here, and usually we are here. At some point we just fall asleep on our desk like this, but you're in that flex posture. So the opposite is an extended posture. So these stretches aren't almost stretches, but they're more putting your body through a range of motion to make a mechanical change at the spine itself. And you can do it either standing or on your stomach. I like on your stomach is most effective. So the prescription is this: is high frequency. So your hips are on the ground. What you are doing is you're practicing on your elbows, rolling at the neck and cervical spine first, and you're going down to the lumbar and trying to get to full extension. Nothing should look like this when my hips are off the table. My hips are on the table. I'm inhaling. I'm exhaling as I'm going up to that extended posture. I'm holding this for 2 seconds. I'm going back down. I'm inhaling. I'm exhaling. I'm going up to that extended posture again. I want 10 repetitions. Ideally, if you're someone who has pain, I say 10 repetitions every hour, which sounds kind of ridiculous because it is. But really, I mean, more is better. So that's not something you can really like overdo. Now, if you are doing that range of motion, it's getting worse. You could try the flex posture, just in a seated position, pulling down, inhaling and exhaling, and pulling yourself forward for 10 reps as well. But chances are, if you're having pain from sitting for a long time, your body wants an extended posture. It won't feel good while you're doing it. It should feel better after those 10 repetitions for a 2-second hold. Say you are injured, you're in the supermarket, you're masked on in your gloves and whatever else everybody's wearing out there now, spacesuit. You don't have the ability to hop down on the floor because everyone's going to have no idea what you're doing and be pretty suspicious of you at that point. You can go in an extended posture, put your hands right where those little back dimples, your PSIS. Inhale and exhale, and shift your hips forward. I'm not really thinking about leaning back, think about taking my hips and shifting them forward as best I can to that extended posture. 2-second hold for 10 repetitions every hour as well. So that is making that mechanical change at the low back itself and putting you in a good optimal position or a better position. Along with that is, even though you can do these repetitions every hour, if you're in a chair that doesn't have good lumbar support, then you could take a towel and roll it up to almost like the diameter of a little bit bigger than your fist. If you were like making this like open hand motion,
Like a beach towel. Like a beach towel.
Yeah, a beach towel. Yeah, it would be rolled up in about that size in terms of the circumference.
Sure.
But either way, the size of the towel and where that towel would go is on the back of your chair and then sitting the small of your back in that, like right above your hips. Basically, that would put you in a healthy extended posture position and give you a little bit of a cue to avoid from going to this position. So if those press ups help a lot,
roll up that towel to about this size, put it flat across your back, lean into it, and give you a little cue to be in a good position to go in your car as well. The next two stretches are more for the hips than anything. The first one we term the couch stretch. It sounds comfortable, it's actually pretty awful. It's for that anterior chain. That will get shortened when you're in a seated position for a long time. Everything the anterior portion will get shortened. That includes that rectus femoris and tailbone Mike reference, as well as iliacus and psoas, which are flexor muscles as well, and lateral side benders. So the starting position can be with your foot on a chair and your knee on the floor. So I'm lengthening that rectus femoris through here. Now, if I lean forward, I don't really feel anything. So what I do is I tuck my pelvis under my hips. I almost like hip shift forward, thrust forward, give a little bit of lean, put a really long stretch through here. I take this hand of the leg that's being stretched, and I reach to the sky. Inhale, exhale, lean to the outside. At that point, I'm getting a psoas stretch, my hands in the air. I'm getting a TFL stretch through here. So I'm leaning to the side. And I'm getting a rectus femoris stretch because my knee is bent back.
Demo it from the front. Show it one more time, just so they see which way you're leaning. So arm up, and he's leaning across.
Yep. That is painful, and you can't get underneath that position. Then you can try and go into a half kneeling position. You would still do that shift of your hips forward, reach to the sky, and lean to the outside. You would not get as much into your rectus femoris, but it could be easier if you have knee pain. Do some of the stretch like that. From a prescription standpoint, all static stretches are the same. You're going to need at least 15 seconds to make a permanent change. Everyone's a fast counter. Go for 30 seconds for 2 sets or so, and just do it whenever you do the lacrosse ball techniques, basically. The last 2 stretches kind of go together, are for that posterior chain in terms of lengthening, which may not be as big a problem as sitting, but we'll give it to you anyways. The first one's a figure 4 stretch. We'll go left leg with my left heel on my right knee. I will then pull into a flex position and hold into this position. You should feel like a low glute stretch by your sitting bone. That's a pure form of stretch. 18 to 30 second hold to make a permanent change. I then go back to neutral. I pull my knee up and towards my opposite shoulder. Here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see you rolling your spine to the side. I want your spine flat. I want your hip having all the motion up and over towards my opposite shoulder. So none of that rotation at that low back at all. All hip motion. That should be a higher glute stretch for that glute area. So in combination, those can be pretty effective. If you do anything that increases your pain, or you feel worse getting off the table after doing those stretches, then you should stop them immediately, obviously. Then you should cause sharp pain, should be no tingling or numbness down your leg or any funny business like that. I will say we're doing big picture items. A lot of times back pain, unfortunately, is not a big picture item. So we do have the ability to be more personalized to you. And if you have questions, we'll have Dave post our link up there. You can use the keyword TRAK, TRAK, all caps, to get a discount on your telehealth appointments with us. And with that, we get really good exercise information to the Google Drive. We'll deliver you specifically. It'll be from our office to you. So, any questions popping up there, Mike? That's floating people's minds.
People want to know why your hair's not as good as mine.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Someone wrote it. Oh, it got deleted though, so you won't be able to see it. No, I'm not seeing any questions. I will say if people need to unmute, you can just ask questions from there as well. We can kind of figure it out. And I'll flip this over so both Tim and I are.
And no pressure if there's not questions. Mike and I both teach at the University of Akron. We get really high ratings, so we know we just cover all the topics really, really well.
Yes. We're used to people not wanting to interact.
Yeah, we're used to people not wanting to interact. This is really true.
Everybody's nervous.
Understandable.
Yeah, Mike is super intimidating.
It's the ponytail.
It's the ponytail.
I think that was great. If no one has any questions, honestly, we got a lot of great feedback from posting the video last time. It's like, it's so funny. Everyone thinks everyone has so much free time right now. I think the reality, if you have kids or you're working, like no one has free time. So it's tough for people to make it now, but they're going to catch the recording for sure.
Yeah.
The last one, honestly, the computer height of the computer screen and the chair height with your feet. I've gotten people that aren't track members texting me about fixing all these things. So it's really, that was the best. And this for me is also great. So selfishly, thank you.
Yeah, and if you want to, Dave, feel free to post our emails. We can send them to you. I can text them over to you. And if people have more specific questions, they can choose an email too, or if we didn't cover something in depth.
Yeah, for sure.
We're good with that for sure.
I'll drop this out to the community tonight. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
See you next
Okay.
week.
See
Sounds
ya.
good. Bye.